Hear the story of a small law firm owner serving the middle class using fixed-fee, non-contested divorce. Today, we learn about Diane and her late husband creating the Budget Divorce Center, aimed at serving their community through a fixed-fee pricing model. Welcome back to the Revenue Roadmap, where we talk about driving revenue and increasing profits in family law firms. I am your host, Tyler Dolph, and with me today is Diane Dramko, the founder of Budget Divorce Center in Cape Coral, Florida. Diane, thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you.
We really appreciate the opportunity to learn about law firm owners and their success in this space, building their own firms. Give us a little history lesson on why you started the Budget Divorce Center and how things are going.
Okay, so I actually went to law school thinking I was going to be a business corporate lawyer. I have a finance degree in undergrad. I went to Florida State Law School, but I graduated back in 1988. I was 25, went straight on through school, then came down in this area because my late husband got a job down in this area. We were both in law school together. So I came down in this area, which was Lee County, which all those years ago was pretty undeveloped. It was up and growing city in the state. But it was hard for me, being a 25-year-old single female, to break through the good old boy firms down here. So I ended up going to the public defender's office to do criminal work, even though I didn't want to do any criminal work. But it ended up being a blessing in disguise, because I ended up liking trial work, which I didn't think, I thought it was going to be more of a transactional attorney, maybe do probate, contracts and all that. Ended up being, as a public defender, I really got into being in the courtroom and realizing I don't think I want to just be a transactional attorney. I would probably go crazy and bored. So I don't want to do that. But my late husband at the time was working, and he was doing real estate, probate, stuff like that. With other firms. Then he ended up went with another firm. I was still at the public defender's office, probably almost about 3 years. And then I said, no, I didn't want to stay doing criminal work. It was hard. It was tough. And then our theory was that, at this point we were married, that we were going to start to have a family. You got to have your own kind of firm. Nobody's going to let you keep leaving to do a kids event or not if it's not your own firm. So we both left the places that we were. I left the public defender's office. He left the firm that he was in, and we started our own firm. But when you're starting up your own firm, as you know, you just take whatever, you become a jack of all trades to make sure you get money coming in. I did a lot of criminal work still at that point. Also had contracts with the county, like to do court-appointed work that the public defenders can't do, that rolls over just to get money coming in. And then we started realizing family law is another niche that you can get that they didn't have a big niche in the areas to do. After a couple years of doing that, we decided, and actually it was more my late husband's idea, but I thought, okay, it's a good one. What we were hearing from the complaints of the judges and people that would call was that people are charging way too much money for divorces, for simple. They're fighting and everything is getting spent on, the attorneys are getting all the money versus, and we just didn't have that kind of a mindset. And then a couple of judges were like, well, other than people that are for legal aid, we need to find, if there was something that was more low cost, more efficient way to get it done, it would probably do better. So that's when we both came up with the idea of Budget Divorce Center. It's marketed, actually, my law firm is the umbrella company now. So it's doing business as the Budget Divorce Center, and it's just myself now because my husband passed away in 2018. But we started that, and our mindset was we could get you be more economical. We weren't marketing against the $1 million clients. We were marketing against people like us, your middle class.
Everyday person. Yep.
Yeah, your middle class people that are just in a bad situation, need to get a divorce. They don't have tons of money. They don't want to spend tons of money. Let's see what we can do. But we weren't free. I mean, our big challenges, people thought, we were like legal aid. I'm like, no, you still have to pay us. But we try to keep it as economical. And we'd offer mostly flat fee. So people know what's going. And, there was criteria that if it hit a certain point in different areas, then it would kick into an hourly case. This is going more or anything like that. But we encouraged more of that. So that was the niche and why we developed the Budget Divorce Center.
I love it. And obviously, so very sorry to hear about your husband. Talk us through where you're at today. You mentioned it's just you running the firm today, and do you have any paralegals or additional attorneys?
No, I did. I mean, throughout the course, I just found that the able that I could keep it running in low cost is to keep the overhead low. I'm working from my house today, but I own my own office condo, so it's there. It was just us two as attorneys, so that we could and we had legal assistant that was also a paralegal to do all the forms. But that was one way that we could keep the cost low and reasonable, is that if we're not paying for all the fancy offices and all the paralegals and everything. When you start doing uncontested simplified divorces, it's mostly forms that you're regenerating on your computer. And it's a lot easier for me. I needed a legal assistant for, different areas, things that we had to do, and then phone calls and all that kind of stuff and making appointments. But once you do and generate enough on an uncontested divorce, we could just easily do it on our computers ourselves. It's not like old school. We thought about expanding to other attorneys, but, I would always hear the horror stories of different other attorneys. What do you pay them? What do you don't? Then you're expanding your liability. So we really never expanded between the two of us. And then once he passed away, I haven't added on another attorney. I actually don't even have a legal assistant anymore because, I'm getting older, so I'm looking to retire. So I'm trying to cut overheads and stuff. But the last one I had was my daughter when she came home to do graduate school, because everything's online.
Right.
So what COVID that was bad in reference to the world, it turned out great in reference to a lot of attorneys or practices. Because
online?
Because the courts here in Lee County still do Zoom hearings. So
makes it really easy.
Yeah, so you can still do Zoom hearings. Uncontested divorces here, there is no court appearances. I still do some other court work in reference to, I do have some contracts with the state that keep me in the courthouse and there. But really, if you get a website that they could either call and ask for a phone appointment, or you go directly to my website and they can make their own phone appointment, eliminates that person. And then I find that people like the more personal touch. They're not paying with a paralegal to pay for fees. Now, I guess if you expand bigger, you could, but.
Yeah, I love the idea of focus. In our firm, we developed a fixed fee pricing model, and we're able to really focus on creating efficiencies so that we could run it like a business. And it sounds like you guys have the same ideology. As it relates to being able to find those efficiencies and be able to focus, were there any key lessons learned in developing that process and working with maybe a different set of clients than your normal kind of high profile divorce attorney works with?
Well, that's why we always marketed towards uncontested, to try to emphasize to people, even if they come in, listen, you could contest it, we could fight for you, but your money's going to go to attorneys. You're not going to be happy in reference to it. And you're not going to be able to, a judge will try their best to do what's best for especially in children's situation or the properties. But it's just like I say, because I also mediate family court cases. So like I say in mediation, it's like if you have children, to get them to do something and not fight you, you make them involved in the process. Or if you just tell them to do something, they fight it. And I try to emphasize that in my mediations. It's just the same thing. Okay, not everybody's going to win everything, but if you could come to an agreement, you're more likely not to see any contested things later on versus a judge just telling you what you have to do.
Yeah.
So we
Love
kind of keep it that way. And I did do plenty of my contested cases, and we would break down the different fees. We'd do uncontested, one fee. If they wanted contested, like we're not filing the agreement and they're able to pack it at once, then we would do another fee up to the first mediation. Because the courts here in Lee, you can't get anywhere near a courtroom or case management until you go to mediation. And then at that point, if it still didn't settle, then at that point, we did try flat feeing through the trials, but then we knew in our mind how expensive it would get. And once we would tell the people that they didn't want that flat fee.
Right.
But, as you know, the hourlies is such a pain to keep up. And,
Billing, yes. We
explain to people, what do you mean you did that? They don't understand all the back scenes that you do. You really need to be charging. So
you got to create those efficiencies, especially if you're going to
Right.
stay small and nimble.
Right.
We've talked to a lot of attorney owners who have gone out on their own and realized that running a business is not the same as just being an attorney, and sometimes you have to do both. What are you doing, and what did you do in those early days to help you make sure that your business was running smoothly while you were being the sole breadwinner and attorney for your firm?
Well, I guess I was lucky because I had a finance degree. So I went to college to run businesses. So, the money part of that and running that part, I took over. But I also understood I knew nothing about advertising. I knew nothing about web pages. So you have to understand what's good for you and what you need to farm out. And over the course, I've been doing this now since 92 is when I went out on my own. So, over 30 years, 35 years, I don't even know how long that is now. It's gone from, the yellow pages of the hard copy book to we advertise on benches and getting your names out that way to going pure internet web pages and nothing's is paper. So we did, you just have to understand what you're good at and what you're not good at, then hire good people to help you. Because you would spend so much more time trying to figure out how to do a web page. And we did. We tried to do a web page and do things ourselves. And it would spend so much more time doing it than we just hired people.
Yeah, you got to find good help, especially when you're a small staff and you don't have lots of hours to spend learning something. You just need it done so you can move on to the next thing, right?
And it was, there's always, as the time goes on, things change. We expanded our web pages. We used to have benches. We used to have 10 or 12 benches in the area and stuff. And then eventually you realize, okay, does that work? Does it not work? There's a lot of billboards. We never went into billboards. I used to do mailings a lot. Once the courthouse is more digital, you could just easily get on there. But when I started out, I was always friendly to all the clerks. That's always the best thing an attorney should know. You are not bigger than anybody else. Just because you're the attorney, you better learn to kiss ass to the judicial assistants, to the clerks.
That's twice.
To the bailiffs, to anybody that's there. Because if you kiss ass and treat them nice, they will treat you nice and your reputation goes well throughout the courthouse. So I'd be able to go, and what I would see, like when I was developing also in the beginning, I was doing criminal and family law. I'd go and the clerks would give me everybody who got arrested that day and give me all their names or addresses. And we'd send out mass mailers. We could find out who filed a divorce case without an attorney, who didn't have one on the other side, sent out mass mailers. Things are different now because everything's email or stuff like that. And I don't have to do that as much. I got it more with my reputation, but we did all those in the past. But I guess that would be my best advice, as you're nodding your head, if you do not be nice and polite to the judicial assistants, to the clerks, to the people that are actually the backbones of the courthouse, you're not going to get anywhere, and they can really kind of not be as cooperative.
Slow your case down. That's I was laughing earlier because we were on a podcast earlier this morning, and the same advice is you got to take care of the people that take care of you. And it's not just the judge; it's everyone involved in the courthouse and the case and all the above. So it was funny that you had the exact same advice. So hopefully our listeners are hearing that. We read that you have to hear things 7 times before you hear it the first time. So that's 2 today.
There you go.
Diane, thank you so much for sharing your story. We appreciate your time. I love your differentiation strategy around working with, the everyday person who just needs to get this done. And I'm happy that there's an outlet that you can provide for them. So we appreciate your time. We appreciate your story. Listeners, we appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time on the Revenue Roadmap.
Okay, thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about fixed fee pricing, make sure to check out this episode where we talk about our own fixed fee pricing model over at Sterling Law. Finally, if you're interested in being featured and telling your story on Revenue Roadmap, feel free to email me at tdolph, that's D as in dog, OLPH, at therevenueroadmap.law. Thanks everyone. Have a great week.